Hello, I'm author Kevin J.N. Hughes, the author of The Undamned, and I tell ghost stories every day, so follow this page if you love ghost stories, and to get updates about The Undamned. Today, I just wanted to do a very light kind of recap of Doug's story. That Doug had for years been having these kinds of paranormal experiences, and then after a brief foray into tarot, he became even more afflicted. And he said that these things seemed to be attached to him. And then, after attempting to pray over this voodoo practitioner, things got even worse in the house that he was living in New Orleans at the time. But it was only now in his story that Doug began to understand that what he was experiencing was demonic. Up until this point, Doug had not, for whatever reason, really concluded that the things he was experiencing were specifically demonic. He assumed they were paranormal, but he hadn't concluded that they were demonic. However, and this is a detail that I really want to kind of issue as a warning. At this point in the story, Doug is 27 years old, and he believes, even though he believes that he's dealing with demonic entities, he also believed that he had the situation under control, that things were relatively speaking, at least, under control. And I want to use this as an opportunity to speak a little bit of a warning because in a lot of these paranormal stories that I hear online or that I read, I love reading ghost stories. And in a lot of these stories, one thing that happens is that there'll either be like a lull in activity, or maybe the ghosts will stop being active for a while, or maybe people sort of get used to the things going on and they decide that it's under control and they're not going to do anything about it. They just want to try to ignore it. Don't do that. Because here's the thing. I know people say if you ignore it, it will go away, and initially that can actually be kind of a good move. Like Ed and Lorraine Warren talk about this, that when you first experience the paranormal, it's usually a good idea to just not give it any attention. And sometimes that's enough and it'll go away, and look for somebody who will give it attention. But when you have these kinds of prolonged paranormal experiences, when you have multiple paranormal experiences, it's usually a good idea to get someone else involved, get a priest or pastor involved to bless your home. I have seen Orthodox Christian house blessings work wonders to get rid of the paranormal. Whether you're Orthodox or not, you can contact your local Orthodox priest and ask them to bless your home, perform an exorcism, whatever. And a lot of times they will, even if you're not Orthodox. Sometimes they'll ask you to like come to an inquirer's class and kind of learn a little bit about the Orthodox faith first so that you know what you're asking for. But they'll usually do the blessing. And I have personally seen this work. I have personally seen this get rid of the paranormal. So don't try to just ignore it and don't assume you've got it under control because, as we're about to see, things tend to get worse when people make that assumption.